Hello everybody and welcome back to Diecast DIY. My name is Joe and this will be yet another wheel swap video. If you are familiar with my content, you've been following along with my channel, you'll know that I do a lot of wheel swaps. It's something that I very much enjoy to do. I just can't wait to get those terrible plastic, hard plastic, unrealistic looking wheels off of my diecast cars and get something on there way more realistic, kind of thus for making my own treasure hunts with the cars of my choice, not the ones that Hot Wheels puts in the packages and decides that they think would make a good treasure hunt. So anyhow, in this video I'll be doing an import, and it is the Hot Wheels 55th Custom 01 Acura Integra, and it is the GSR model. So the decals, or the tampos, whichever you prefer to call them, are in the Hot Wheels 55th anniversary style or whatnot. And the plan is to swap the wheels on this with something a lot more realistic with rubber tires, and to also show you guys how to give it that stanced look. Some people may call it the skateboarded look. So I've got the table set with all the tools and everything that we'll need. I'm going to run over there and put you on pause real quick and then set you up here where you can see exactly what's going on. Hang tight, just a second. And just like that, we're back. Here it is, a little closer look at the Custom 01 Acura Integra GSR. It is the Hot Wheels 55th Anniversary Edition. And we'll go ahead and get it out of the package and get it started here. Not the most realistic Acura Integra model that they've released, with this having all the decals on it or whatnot, but still a very, very good looking car. Check that out. Nice, slightly matted black paint job, as they did with a lot of the 55th anniversary cars. This one is number 5 out of the series, out of 6. And the details include that custom gold intercooler in the front. Very nice. Really wish while they were up there they would have touched up and gave us some headlight decals, but that's alright. That's a detail I can take care of later. And they did give us a very, very nice, look how accurate that for an import, that gold exhaust would be there. Not necessarily that it would be gold in real life, but it's got that oversized, great, what the older guys would say, sounds like a weed whacker exhaust. And out back, the details are just fantastic on this, with the very accurate Acura badges, emblem in the center of the trunk lid, and very detailed 2-color headlights. So very nice job on this casting. Just not crazy about the wheels. And I'd like to see this car skateboarded. So let's get right into it. First thing I always recommend is that you get yourself a towel to put down so that you can get this car down and work on it without damaging the paint. I don't recommend that you use a paper towel, because a paper towel is kind of scratchy and it can definitely put some scratches and dull your paint job. I also do point out that I do have a more detailed video on how to do wheel swaps, where I go through every single step of the process, the way that I swap wheels. If you'd like to go back in my content and check that out, it's very informative. I do so many wheel swaps that in the interest of saving time, I typically don't explain every single thing that I'm doing. So if you missed something here, go back in my content and check out that detailed wheel swap video, and you'll find that very helpful. But as I'm going along here, I will kind of explain, just not as in much detail, what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I got these long needle nose cutter pliers, and they're really going to fit right down in the inside to reach that axle where you need to. That's why you need this style of cutters. And I'll just grip it real good, give it a good squeeze, and they should just pop right out of there. Yeah. Careful. Close your eyes even, maybe, when you're doing that, because they really got a lot of tension on them somehow, and they really like to go flying. There goes that. Alright, we got wheels flying all over the room. And just like that, we've got the wheels off. No need to take this car apart. I know you can watch a lot of wheel swap videos, and they're drilling out these rivets and taking the complete car apart. With the technique that I use to swap axles and wheels, there's no need to do that. And if you go taking these cars apart, could potentially hurt the value of them, and risk them not going back together as durably as it would be if you had left the original rivets in it. Now, if you are not going to take this car apart and you're going to swap the wheels, you're going to have to use these. This is the axle that I'll be using, and it's a hollow piece of tubing. And no, it's not. That's actually debris from that old axle. Alright, here it is. This is what you need. Yeah, okay, if you look real hard, you can see that's a hollow little axle piece of tubing. You can order these on eBay, well, wherever you get your die-cast supplies at. And I recommend you buy the 25mm. It's the perfect size for any 1/64 scale casting. You may just need to trim up the length depending on the width of the car. But 25mm is what I typically use. Then when you put your wheel onto this hollow axle, they come with these little pins. And these little pins then slide into that hole in the end of the axle, and that's what holds your wheel on. And you don't need to take that car apart at all if you use this style of axle setup. Again, they can be found anywhere, just about anywhere that you buy your axle or Hot Wheel supplies. Alright, the wheels that I've chosen for this wheel swap, they are real rubber, real rider tires, and a nice deep dish 5-star chrome rim. Very authentic looking wheel setup. And I won't be using this axle that came with them because I'm using my hollow axle. And I'm not taking the vehicle apart. So I'm just going to cut these wheels off of this axle. Get those set aside. Sometimes when you cut them, you leave a little, like a frayed mark on that axle, and they're a little hard to get out, but pull on them and they'll come out. There's my old axle. Won't be using that. And then for my other set of wheels, I will cut them off of that axle like so. And there are my wheels, ready for the swap and the new axle. Okay, now there's just a hole to slide that axle through on the base of your car. So I'll take my axle and I will go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to do, getting ahead of myself here, is I'm going to take one of these little pins that lock the wheels in like I showed you earlier, and I'm going to take my cutters, and I'm not going to cut this pin, but I'm just going to grab it and bend it just slightly. Okay, Now what that's going to do is that's going to create enough tension to hold the wheels on there without me having to use glue. You'll see some people glue these on. You can do that, but if you ever change your mind on these wheels and want to swap them again down the road, once you glued it, you can't do that. So I use this technique. I bend that axle pin just slightly, and it allows me to have options to do other wheel swaps down the road then. What I'll go ahead and do, without putting a wheel on just yet, I'll put that pin that I just bent inside of the axle tube. Got it in there, and now I'm just going to kind of pound it the rest of the way in. And I've got that mushroomed head on the end there ready to accept a wheel now. Take one of my new wheels, slide it onto the axle, and then we're halfway done there. Now I'm going to push this right through the car. And go ahead and try the front. Sometimes you got to work with them a little bit. And there we go. It slid right through that time. Okay, now I have the other end of the axle, as you can see, sticking out the other side. It's time to bend another one of those little end pins so that I can lock my other wheel on. And I just take that, get my cutters on it. Again, I'm not cutting, but I'm just putting ever so slightly of a bend on that, and it's going to create the tension that I need to hold that next wheel on. So now I'll set that down, stick my other wheel on, sometimes you'll run into a situation where there's a little burr in the wheel. You might need to clear out any obstructions. If the wheel doesn't want to go on there, I'll try another wheel first and just see if it's just not liking that one for some reason. Oh. Got parts of flying. Okay, am I getting it on there? So I've got chubby little fingers here, and it might go a lot easier for you if you have skinnier fingers, but sometimes it takes me some time, but there's always a finished product at the end of this video. There we go. It went right on there. And I'll go ahead and take my axle pin now then and stick it right in there. Lock that wheel and axle all together. Alright. That almost went too easy. Is it really going to go in there on the first shot? Yes. Success. Okay. Now what I want to show you while we're this far. Okay. Now there's the wheels, and they're looking really sharp in there, but they're kind of flush with the fenders, and you can see that I have a little bit of wiggle room there, whatnot. And what I want to do is to stance this car where those wheels protrude out just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is use these. And these are wheel spacers. Okay? And you can find these also about anywhere that you buy your 1/64th Hot Wheels customizing supplies. Or you can also find them at Hobby Lobby. And all they are is, these are particularly called check glass beads. They're in with the jewelry making supplies at your hobby store, and they're just little super tiny glass beads that are just the perfect size for sliding over those axles and spacing that wheel out so that you get that staggered, stanced kind of look. So I wanted to show you how the wheels went on first. Now we'll go ahead and take those off right fast and stick some of these in there, and we'll see it'll make a very huge difference on what it looks like. Alright, so I have my axle apart again, and I'm just going to take one of these little glass beads like I showed you there and slide it right over the axle, and that's going to act as my wheel spacer. You can see it there. There it is, and there's my wheel spacer. Now I'll just reinsert it into the car. You can already see how much that wheel is sticking outside of the quarter panel now with the spacer. That's what I was looking for. Okay, and now I'll take another glass bead. This is the hard part. You gotta have really small fingers sometimes to do these. I did not get that on the first shot. I'll try again, holding the car in a different position. You gotta kind of stick it on your finger, and then I just about had it, but yeah, probably the easiest way to do would be to stick it on the end of your finger when you get this to this point, and then poke the axle right through there. Alright, I got it that time. Yay. Now you put your wheel on. And now the axle pin. And remember, I bent that axle pin to hold that wheel on there so much better without the glue. I'll just stick that pin right in there, back in there again. The purpose of doing this twice was to show you precisely how to stance your wheels. Okay, that's in. And I've got my fingernail over here in the middle of that axle on that side. And I'm using the end of a Dremel tool just to press in that axle pin. And there we go. You can see how stanced that is. The wheels are protruding outside of the fenders, and they're going to give us that great skateboarded tuner look. We'll go ahead and throw this front axle on, and it'll be time for our reveal. So again, take and bend another end pin. And this time, I will put it in the axle. I'll go ahead and pound that in. Alright. I'll place a wheel on. And then a spacer. Because now you've seen how that goes together. So I put it on the end of my finger. Poke that axle right through there. And there is my wheel spacer that's going to give me that perfect stance that I want for this car. And I'll slide the axle through the front. Very good. And I need to press that one in a little bit further. Okay, now I ran into a problem here that you could run into. So For purposes of the length of the video, it may be not ideal, but you may run into this problem, so it's important that you see it when you're stancing these cars. This axle is now too short for me to be able to put another spacer on there. Now, the problem is that some of these glass beads are thicker than others. So the one that's on here that I have on here is obviously too thick, and I need to select one, and you can see that I have many. So I'll just find me one that's a little bit narrower. Alright, I think this one should do, and I'll give it a try. And if ultimately you still have a short axle after trying a couple of the different sizes of the beads, you may need to look at your axle size too. Maybe your axle just isn't long enough, and that could certainly be the case too. It's good that we run into these problems while we're doing these wheel swaps, because you might too. You're going to know what to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've got the exact same problem with a different size bead. I've just got my axle a little bit too short. No problem. I'm going to grab another longer axle and we'll fix the problem. Get in my bag of axles here. Just get another one out. And I want my pin back out of this one. Pull that out. I'll put that in my new longer axle. Pound that in. I can go back with a wide wheel spacer now that I know I'm using a longer axle. So I'll go ahead and slide my wheel on, and then I'll place my spacer on, place it in the car, put my other spacer on. I had one sticking to my finger, it fell off there. Put it on my finger, drop it a couple times. There we go. You can see that it's now on there. Place my last wheel on. We are almost there. And then my last retaining pin. So wheel swaps are fun and easy to do. However, you will run into the occasional problems. And it's just good to see somebody else having those problems so that you know when you run into them exactly what to do to correct the situation. And you're going to turn out just fine at the end. Stick this last pin in there. And now I will push the pins in. And I use two Dremel tool ends to push these axles in and lock them in for the final step. You can use anything small and metal that you happen to have around, and that will work just fine. All right, and there it is. Absolutely love those deep dish wheels on there, and I think they just look great. And look at that. It is stanced with that skateboarded kind of look, just not too much, but just enough, sticking right out of the fenders. And what a great stanced look that is on our Acura Integra GSR. Only thing left to do is to paint my headlight details in, and boy, what a great casting. If you've enjoyed this video, we do lots of wheel swaps on this channel. Go ahead and subscribe so you can see when the next video drops. Until next time, thanks for watching. Catch you later.